The billionaire who didn't believe in love until a black woman changed his heart. Joseph Hardy had everything money could buy, except the ability to love. He'd trained himself to see relationships as transactions, emotions as liabilities. Then a caterer walked into his break room and challenged everything he thought he knew about control. This is the story of a billionaire who built walls around his heart, and the woman who made him want to tear them down. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here, subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. Joseph Hardy had exactly 17 minutes before the most important investor meeting of the quarter, and his assistant had just quit. Not resigned with 2 weeks' notice. Not requested a transfer. Quit. As in, cleared her desk, turned in her badge, and walked out of Hardy Industries headquarters in downtown Seattle while Joseph was on a conference call with Tokyo. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the morning ferry cross Elliott Bay. His reflection stared back at him. 37 years old. 6'2". Dark hair that cost $200 to cut every 3 weeks. A suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. And absolutely no one who could tell him where the Matsuda contract files were located. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. "Mom, your father is bringing that woman to the charity gala. Thought you should know." Joseph deleted the message without responding. Some things never changed. His parents had been divorced for 5 years, and his mother still monitored his father's every move like a surveillance drone. He pressed the intercom button that connected to nowhere, since his assistant's desk now sat empty. The meeting was in 14 minutes. The Matsuda representatives were already in the building. And Joseph had built a $9 billion tech empire on the principle that chaos was simply order waiting to be implemented. He strode out of his office toward the executive floor's main corridor. Someone in this building had to know how things actually worked around here. The break room door stood open. Joseph rarely came to this part of the floor. He had coffee delivered to his office every morning at 6:15. But desperate times required adaptable strategies. He walked in and stopped. A woman stood at the counter, arranging what looked like 24 plates of food. Not the usual corporate catering spread of sad sandwiches and wilting salad. These plates looked like they belonged in a restaurant. She wore black pants and a crisp white chef's coat, her dark curly hair pulled back in a low bun. She moved with efficient grace, adjusting a garnish here, repositioning a plate there. She hadn't noticed him yet. She was examining a plate of something that involved salmon and microgreens, her head tilted slightly, a small frown creasing her forehead. Joseph cleared his throat. She turned, and he got his first clear look at her face. Beautiful didn't quite cover it. She had warm brown skin, high cheekbones, and dark eyes that met his directly without the usual deference people showed when they recognized him. Those eyes narrowed slightly. "You're not supposed to be in here yet. The lunch presentation doesn't start for another 2 hours." "I work here," Joseph said. "I'm aware. This floor is executive offices. But the event coordinator specifically said the break room would be available for setup until 11. She glanced at her watch. "It's 9:46. Joseph found himself slightly off balance, which rarely happened. "I'm not here for the food. I need to find someone who knows where the Matsuda files are." "Have you tried asking your assistant?" "She quit this morning." The woman's expression shifted slightly. Something that might have been sympathy. "That's inconvenient. That's one word for it." She turned back to her plates, adjusting one that looked perfectly fine to Joseph. "The corporate server has a search function. You could try that." "I did. The files aren't where they should be. Then they're misfiled. Check the shared drive under pending contracts instead of active contracts." Joseph pulled out his phone and pulled up the server access. He navigated to the pending contracts folder. There they were. All 17 documents he needed, misfiled by someone who apparently didn't understand the difference between pending and active. He looked up. "How did you know that?" She shrugged, arranging what looked like small tarts on a tiered display. "People misfile things in predictable ways. Pending, active, archived. If it's not in one place, try the most logical wrong place. That's surprisingly helpful. I contain multitudes." She said it without looking at him, focused on her work. Joseph checked his watch. 9 minutes until the meeting. He had what he needed. He should leave. But he didn't. You're the caterer. Victoria Davis. Davis and Company Catering. She glanced at him. And you're Joseph Hardy. I've seen your photo in the building directory. You looked me up? I look up all my clients. Due diligence. She moved to the next table, where covered trays waited. Your company booked us for the quarterly board lunch. Apparently your usual caterer had a scheduling conflict. I didn't know we had a usual caterer. You do. Patterson Events. They handle most of your corporate functions. But they're doing a wedding today, so your event coordinator found me. Victoria lifted one of the tray covers, revealing perfectly arranged spring rolls. I should mention that if you're planning to stay in here, you're going to see all the food before the presentation, which might diminish the impact. Joseph knew he should leave. He had 8 minutes now. But something about the way she moved, the calm competence, the complete lack of interest in impressing him, made him stay. How long have you been doing this? He asked. Catering specifically? 2 years. Cooking professionally? 12 years. She looked at him properly then, and he felt the full force of her attention. Why are you still here? Don't you have an important meeting? 7 minutes away. Then you should probably go. Probably. She almost smiled. He caught the edge of it before she turned back to her work. Mr. Hardy, I'm going to be direct with you. I have 48 plates to arrange in the next hour. You're a distraction. No one spoke to Joseph like that. Not his executives, not his investors, certainly not service vendors. He found it incredibly refreshing. What are you serving? She sighed, but it sounded more amused than annoyed. Pan-seared salmon with lemon dill cream, herb-roasted chicken with balsamic reduction, vegetarian spring rolls with sweet chili sauce, Mediterranean quinoa salad, roasted vegetable medley, and for dessert, mini lemon tarts and chocolate ganache cups. That's impressive. It's my job. Still impressive. This time she did smile, just a little. You have 6 minutes, Mr. Hardy. He should definitely leave now. Joseph. You can call me Joseph. I'll stick with Mr. Hardy. Professional boundaries. But her eyes held a hint of warmth that hadn't been there before. Joseph's phone buzzed. His head of operations, where are you? Matsuda team is in the conference room. I have to go, he said. I know. He walked to the door, then turned back. The food looks excellent. Thank you. Will you be here when I'm done with the meeting? Victoria met his eyes. I'll be here until 1. Then I have another event across town. Joseph nodded and left, his mind already shifting to the Matsuda meeting. But as he walked into the conference room and shook hands with the Japanese investors, part of his attention remained on the woman in the break room, arranging plates with the same focus he applied to building companies. The meeting went well. It always did. Joseph had a gift for reading people, for knowing what they needed to hear and when they needed to hear it. By the time he walked the Matsuda team to the elevator 90 minutes later, they'd agreed to terms that would bring $40 million in new investment to Hardy Industries' AI division. His head of operations, Marcus Chen, clapped him on the shoulder. That was masterful. Especially the part about long-term partnership values. Matsuda ate that up. They're relationship-focused. It's cultural. Joseph checked his watch. 11:30. Victoria might still be in the break room. He was being ridiculous. He had a company to run. A full afternoon of meetings. 3 acquisition proposals to review. And he was thinking about a caterer he'd spoken to for maybe 10 minutes. Joseph didn't do this. He didn't get distracted by women. He'd learned that lesson thoroughly. 3 years ago, he'd been engaged to a woman named Claire who'd seemed perfect on paper. Princeton educated, from a good family, beautiful, poised. She'd broken off the engagement 6 weeks before the wedding when she met someone else at a charity function. It should have devastated him. Instead, he'd felt mostly relief and a cold, clarifying realization: love was a liability. Attraction was chemistry. Marriage was a contract. And building a life with someone required nothing more than compatible goals and mutual respect. He'd dated casually since then. Never seriously. Never with any intention beyond pleasant company for corporate events. It worked. It was clean. It required nothing from him except showing up and being reasonably charming. This interest in Victoria Davis was just novelty. She'd been different, direct, unimpressed by him. Once he saw her again, the appeal would fade. He took the elevator to the executive floor. The break room door was open. He could hear movement inside, the sound of containers being packed. Joseph walked in. Victoria stood at the counter, loading empty trays into large insulated bags. She'd taken off the chef's coat and wore a simple black t-shirt underneath. She looked up when he entered. Mr. Hardy. Back again. The meeting went well. I'm glad. She continued packing, efficient and methodical. I wanted to thank you for the file location suggestion. You already did. I wanted to do it again. Now she paused, turning to face him fully. Is there something I can help you with? Yes, Joseph thought. Have dinner with me. Let me take you somewhere expensive and learn everything about you. Let me figure out why I can't stop thinking about someone I barely know. He said none of that. Instead, he asked, how did the board lunch go? You'd have to ask them. I just provide the food. I'm sure it was excellent. It was. She said it matter-of-factly, not arrogant, just certain of her own skill. Joseph leaned against the doorframe. You're very confident. I'm very good at what I do. Victoria zipped one of the bags. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance. I've spent 12 years learning to cook. I've earned the right to be confident. Fair enough. She studied him for a moment, and Joseph had the unsettling feeling that she saw more than he wanted to show. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you really here? The honest answer lodged in his throat. Because you're interesting. Because you treated me like a regular person. Because I haven't been able to think about anything else since I left this room 90 minutes ago. He went with partial truth. I wanted to see if the food lived up to the presentation. And did it? I don't know. I was in a meeting. Victoria almost laughed. He could see her fighting it. So you came back to ask me how something went that you didn't actually experience? When you say it like that, it sounds absurd. Because it is absurd, Mr. Hardy. They looked at each other. The break room suddenly felt smaller. Joseph registered details. The way her hair curled at her temples where it had escaped the bun. The small scar on her chin. The fact that she smelled faintly of lemons and something else he couldn't identify. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. I should finish packing, Victoria said, but she didn't move. Probably. You're doing it again. What? Being a distraction. This time Joseph did smile. Am I? You know you are. She turned back to her packing, but he caught the edge of a smile on her face. He should leave. He had meetings. Responsibilities. A company that required his full attention. But he heard himself ask, do you cater private events? Victoria glanced at him over her shoulder. Depends on the event. Dinner. Small. Just one person. You're asking if I'd cater a dinner for one person? For two people. You and me. She straightened, turning to face him fully. Her expression was unreadable. Mr. Hardy, are you asking me to have dinner with you? I'm asking if you'd let me hire you to cook dinner. For both of us. That's the most complicated way of asking someone out I've ever heard. Joseph felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Nervousness. Actual nervousness. Is that a no? Victoria crossed her arms, studying him. Why? Why what? Why do you want to have dinner with me? Honest answer, I don't know, and that terrifies me and intrigues me in equal measure. What he said, because I'd like to get to know you better. You don't know me at all. That's the point of dinner. She didn't respond immediately. Joseph could see her thinking, weighing, deciding. He realized he desperately wanted her to say yes, which was absurd. He barely knew her. This was just dinner. Just conversation. Nothing more. Finally, Victoria said, I don't date clients. The disappointment surprised him with its intensity. I understand. However. She held up one finger. Your company is my client. You personally are not. And the contract for today's event is complete. So technically, you're not a client anymore. Hope, unexpected and unwelcome, flickered in his chest. So that's a yes? That's a maybe. Victoria pulled her phone from her pocket. Give me your number. I'll think about it and let you know. Joseph recited his personal cell number, not the business line. Victoria typed it in. I'll text you, she said. If I decide yes, we can discuss details. Fair enough. She went back to packing. Joseph recognized a dismissal when he saw one. He walked to the door, then paused. Victoria. Yes? I hope you say yes. She looked at him, and for just a moment, her professional composure slipped. He saw interest there, attraction, curiosity. Then she smiled, small and private. We'll see, Mr. Hardy. Joseph left before he could say anything else. He rode the elevator down to his office, sat at his desk, and stared at the Seattle skyline without seeing it. His phone sat silent on the desk. No text from Victoria. Not yet. He pulled up her company website. Davis & Company Catering. Professional, well-designed, with photos of beautifully presented food. The About page had a photo of Victoria in her chef's coat, smiling at the camera. The bio was brief. Victoria Davis founded Davis & Company Catering in 2022, bringing 12 years of culinary experience to Seattle's corporate and private event scene. She specializes in fresh, locally sourced ingredients and custom menus designed to make every event memorable. Joseph closed the browser. He was researching a caterer like she was a potential acquisition. This was ridiculous. His desk phone rang. Marcus Chen. We need to discuss the Peterson merger. You have time this afternoon? 3 o'clock, Joseph said automatically. Perfect. Also, the board lunch was incredible. Where did we find that caterer? I don't know. Sarah arranged it before she quit. Well, someone should book them again. Best corporate lunch we've had in years. Joseph agreed and ended the call. His cell phone sat on the desk, stubbornly silent. He forced himself to focus on work. The Peterson merger required his full attention. They were acquiring a smaller AI company with promising voice recognition technology, but the valuation was tricky. He pulled up the financial reports and immersed himself in numbers. His phone buzzed at 2:43. Unknown number, this is Victoria Davis. I've thought about it. Yes to dinner, but I have conditions. Joseph felt something uncomfortably close to relief. He typed back, name them. The response came quickly, not this week. I'm booked solid. Next Friday, June 21st. I choose the restaurant. We split the check. And this is just dinner. No expectations beyond conversation. Joseph smiled at his phone. She was negotiating terms like this was a business deal. He appreciated that more than she probably realized. He replied, agreed to all conditions. Friday the 21st, text me the restaurant details. Victoria, I will. See you then, Mr. Hardy. Joseph set down his phone. Friday was 8 days away. He had 100 things to do between now and then. Board meetings. Acquisition reviews. A product launch. A charity gala his mother insisted he attend. He shouldn't be this interested in dinner with someone he'd spoken to for less than 30 minutes total. But as he returned to the Peterson merger documents, Joseph Hardy, who didn't believe in love, who'd built his life on logic and strategy and careful emotional distance, caught himself looking forward to next Friday with an anticipation that felt dangerously close to hope. And he had absolutely no idea what to do with that. The restaurant Victoria chose wasn't what Joseph expected. He'd anticipated one of Seattle's upscale establishments. The kind of place with white tablecloths and wine lists that required a sommelier to navigate. Instead, on Friday evening, June 21st, he found himself standing outside a small Ethiopian restaurant in the Central District, watching through the window as Victoria spoke with the owner like they were old friends. She wore a deep green dress that wrapped at the waist, her hair loose around her shoulders in natural curls. Joseph had changed clothes 3 times before settling on dark slacks and a blue button-down with no tie. Now he wondered if he was overdressed. Victoria saw him through the window and waved. He went inside. The restaurant smelled like Berbera spices and fresh injera. Colorful woven baskets decorated the walls. Only 8 tables filled the small space, half of them occupied by people who looked like regulars. Mr. Hardy, Victoria said, smiling. You found it. GPS is a wonderful invention. This is Ailmaya. She owns Addis Kitchen. Victoria gestured to the woman beside her, who looked to be in her 60s with kind eyes and an appraising expression. Ailmaya shook his hand. Any friend of Victoria's is welcome here. I have your table ready. She led them to a corner table with a good view of the whole restaurant. Joseph held Victoria's chair, earning an amused look from her. Thank you, she said as he sat across from her. My mother would disown me if I forgot basic manners. How is your mother? Joseph blinked. I didn't mention my mother. You did. Last week in the break room. Your phone buzzed and you made a face. Then you muttered something about mothers and surveillance drones. He had no memory of saying that out loud. You're observant. Professional hazard. Catering requires reading a room. Victoria accepted a menu from Ailmaya. How do you feel about Ethiopian food? I've never had it. Her eyebrows rose. Never? In all your 37 years? Is that a problem? It's a tragedy. But fixable. Victoria ordered for both of them without asking, which should have annoyed Joseph but somehow didn't. She spoke with Ailmaya in what sounded like practiced ease, discussing spice levels and portion sizes. When Ailmaya left, Victoria folded her hands on the table. I should clarify something. I ordered family style. We'll share from the same platter. If that makes you uncomfortable, I can change it. Why would that make me uncomfortable? Some people prefer separate plates. Personal space issues. Joseph considered this. Sharing food required a certain intimacy. Maybe that's why she was asking. I'm fine with sharing. Good. You can't properly experience Ethiopian food without sharing. A comfortable silence settled between them. Joseph noticed details. The way candlelight caught the gold undertones in Victoria's skin. The small gold hoops in her ears. The fact that she seemed completely at ease while he felt uncharacteristically uncertain about what to say next. So, Victoria said, saving him. Tell me about Hardy Industries. What exactly does a $9 billion tech company do? We develop AI solutions for business applications. Workflow automation, predictive analytics, custom integration systems. That means nothing to me. Joseph smiled. We help companies work more efficiently using artificial intelligence. Better. Now explain it like I'm 5. We build smart computer programs that do boring work so people don't have to. Victoria laughed, and the sound did something pleasant to Joseph's chest. There we go. Actual English. Why did you get into that field? I like solving problems. AI is just systematic problem solving at scale. And you started the company when you were what, 12? 29. 8 years ago. That's young for a CEO. I had advantages. Good education. Family connections. Access to capital. Joseph leaned back in his chair. I'm not going to pretend I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I had a lot of help. That's refreshingly honest. There's no point pretending otherwise. My grandfather made his money in shipping. My father expanded into real estate. I had a trust fund and a network before I had a business plan. Victoria studied him. But you still had to execute. Money doesn't build a company. People do. True. Elmaya brought their food on a large round platter lined with injera, the spongy flatbread. Small piles of different stews and vegetables covered the surface in colorful arrangements. She explained each dish, then left them to eat. Victoria demonstrated how to tear off pieces of injera and use it to scoop up the food. Joseph followed her lead, trying something that looked like lentils. The flavors hit his tongue in complex layers. Earthy, spicy, rich. He reached for his water. Victoria grinned. Too spicy? No. Just different. Good different. They ate in easy silence for a few minutes. Joseph tried each dish, finding some he liked more than others. Victoria watched him with obvious amusement. What? He asked. You have a very serious face when you eat. Like you're analyzing each bite. I analyze everything. Occupational hazard. That sounds exhausting. Sometimes it is. Victoria tore off more injera. Your turn. Ask me something. Why catering? You said you've cooked professionally for 12 years, but you only started the catering company 2 years ago. Something shifted in her expression. Not quite sadness, but a shadow of it. I worked in restaurants for 10 years. Started as a line cook, worked my way up to sous chef. Good restaurants, too. The kind where you have to book reservations 3 months out. Why leave? My father got sick. Cancer. I needed more flexible hours to help take care of him. Victoria's voice stayed steady, but Joseph heard the weight behind it. Restaurant kitchens don't do flexible. You're there when they need you, which is always. I'm sorry. About your father. Thank you. He passed 4 years ago, in 2020. I was 30. She said it matter-of-factly, but her fingers tightened slightly on her water glass. After he died, I kept doing private chef work. Then a friend asked me to cater her wedding. Then her friends hired me. It grew from there. Joseph did the math automatically. Victoria's father died when she was 30. She was 34 now. 4 years of building a business while processing grief. He understood that kind of work, the way you could bury yourself in achievement to avoid feeling too much. He'd be proud of you, Joseph said. Your business. What you've built. Victoria looked at him directly, and he saw her really see him for the first time tonight. Thank you. That means something. They continued eating. The conversation flowed easier now, moving from topic to topic without the initial awkwardness. Victoria asked about his company. He asked about her favorite dishes to prepare. She asked about Seattle, where he'd grown up. He asked about her, learning she'd grown up in Portland and moved to Seattle for culinary school 12 years ago. Do you have siblings? Victoria asked. No. Only child. You. One brother. Marcus. He's 31, lives in Portland, teaches high school math. Are you close? Very. He calls every Sunday. Mostly to make sure I'm eating actual meals and not just tasting menu samples. Victoria smiled. He worries. I tell him I'm fine. We both know I'm lying sometimes, but we maintain the fiction. Joseph understood that too. The performance of being fine when you weren't. Your mother? Lives in Portland. Retired nurse. She wants me to move back, get married, give her grandchildren. The usual motherly concerns. Mine wants the same thing. Minus the move back part. I already live 10 minutes from her. Victoria left. That sounds dangerous. It has its moments. Elmaya came to check on them, pleased to see they'd eaten most of the food. She brought tea without asking, the kind that came in small glasses with too much sugar. So, Victoria said, wrapping her hands around the warm glass. I've been wondering something since last week. What's that? Why me? Joseph set down his tea. What do you mean? You're Joseph Hardy, Billionaire CEO. You could have dinner with anyone. Why ask out the caterer you talked to for 10 minutes? It was a fair question. Joseph had asked himself the same thing approximately 40 times in the past week. Honestly, he said. Please. You treated me like a regular person. Not like the CEO or the billionaire or the guy who might be useful to know. Just like someone who was in your way while you were trying to work. Victoria's lips curved. I did kind of dismiss you. Twice. You came back the second time. That's on you. I couldn't help it. The words came out more honest than he intended. Victoria's expression softened. I almost said no. When you asked. Why didn't you? You looked nervous. Just for a second, when you thought I might turn you down. I liked that you weren't completely confident. I'm never completely confident around you. Good. Keeps things interesting. They finished their tea. Joseph paid the check despite Victoria's protest about splitting it. Consider it a thank you for introducing me to Ethiopian food, he said. Fine. But next time I pay. Next time. The words hung in the air between them, full of possibility. They walked out into the June evening. The sun hadn't fully set yet, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Victoria pulled a light cardigan from her bag. Can I walk you to your car? Joseph asked. I took the bus. Then can I drive you home? Victoria hesitated. Joseph recognized the calculation. Getting in a car with someone you barely knew, no matter how nice the dinner, required trust. Or I can wait with you until your bus comes, he offered. The bus is fine. But you can wait if you want. They walked to the bus stop 2 blocks away. Friday evening foot traffic filled the sidewalks, people heading to dinner or bars or home after work. Joseph couldn't remember the last time he'd just walked through a Seattle neighborhood like a regular person. Tell me something true, Victoria said as they walked. About what? Anything. Something you don't usually tell people. Joseph thought about it. I don't actually like most of the events I attend. The galas, the networking dinners, the corporate functions. I go because it's expected, but I find them exhausting. Then why go? Because building a business isn't just about building a good product. It's about relationships. Visibility. Playing the game. That sounds lonely. It was. Joseph had never quite articulated it that way, but Victoria was right. Your turn. Tell me something true. They reached the bus stop. Victoria leaned against the shelter. I'm scared my business won't make it. Every month I'm terrified I won't book enough events to cover costs. I wake up at 3 in the morning doing math in my head, calculating how many clients I need to break even. But your food is excellent. Your reputation is growing. Reputation doesn't pay the commercial kitchen lease. Clients do. She shrugged. It's getting better. This year is better than last year. But the fear doesn't go away. Joseph understood that too. He'd felt it in the early days of Hardy Industries, before the venture capital funding came through. The terror of failing, of proving everyone who doubted you right. You'll make it, he said. How do you know? Because you're good at what you do. And you're smart enough to be scared. The people who fail are the ones who think success is guaranteed. Victoria looked at him, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. The acknowledgement that they both understood what it meant to build something from nothing, even if their starting points were different. Her bus approached in the distance. I had a good time tonight, Victoria said. So did I. Better than your usual corporate functions? Significantly better. The bus pulled up. Victoria moved toward it, then paused. Joseph? It was the first time she'd used his first name. He liked the way it sounded in her voice. Yes? Next Friday. There's a summer food festival at Pike Place Market. Vendors, live music, that kind of thing. I was going to check out the competition. You want to come? Is this you asking me on a second date? This is me offering to let you tag along while I work. I'll take it. Victoria smiled, bright and genuine. Good. I'll text you details. She got on the bus. Joseph watched it pull away, then walked back to where he'd parked his car 4 blocks away. His phone buzzed as he unlocked the door. A text from Victoria, thank you for dinner. Even though you violated our split check agreement. He replied, you can get the next one. Victoria, oh, I will. And it will be expensive. Joseph smiled at his phone like an idiot, sitting in his car on a Friday night in a neighborhood he rarely visited, feeling more content than he had in months. He drove home to his house overlooking Lake Washington, the kind of house that appeared in architecture magazines. 6,000 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen he never used. He'd bought it 3 years ago because his real estate agent said it was a good investment. It had never felt like home. Joseph poured himself a scotch and stood at the living room window, looking out at the lake. His reflection stared back at him. Same face, same expensive clothes, same life he'd carefully constructed to require nothing from him emotionally. Except now he was thinking about a woman who made him laugh, who called him on his evasions, who'd shared her father's death and her 3 in the morning fears like they were facts rather than vulnerabilities. His phone rang. His mother. Joseph, darling. I haven't heard from you all week. I've been busy, Mom. Too busy for your mother? The gala is next Saturday. You're still coming? The charity gala. He'd forgotten. Yes, I'll be there. Wonderful. I've seated you next to Amanda Morrison's daughter. You remember Amanda, don't you? Her daughter Catherine just moved back from New York. She's a lawyer, very accomplished. Joseph closed his eyes. His mother's matchmaking attempts were legendary and relentless. Mom, I don't need you to set me up. I'm not setting you up. I'm simply introducing you to accomplished young women. What you do with those introductions is your choice. I'm seeing someone. The words surprised him as much as they apparently surprised his mother, who went silent for 3 full seconds. You're what? Seeing someone. Dating. Who? Do I know her? What's her family? Her name is Victoria. And no, you don't know her. Victoria what? What does she do? She owns a catering company. Another pause. Joseph could practically hear his mother recalculating. A caterer. How did you meet a caterer? She catered a corporate lunch. We talked. I asked her to dinner. I see. His mother's tone had shifted to what Joseph privately called her tactical retreat voice. Well, how lovely. You'll bring her to the gala, then. I'll ask her. Do. I'd like to meet this Victoria. They talked for a few more minutes before Joseph extracted himself from the conversation. He finished his scotch and headed upstairs to his bedroom. He pulled out his phone and texted Victoria, random question. Do you own a formal dress? Her response came a minute later. Why? Are we going somewhere fancy? Joseph, possibly. There's a charity gala next Saturday. My mother insists I attend. I thought you might want to come. Victoria, as your date? Joseph, yes. The 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared and disappeared several times. Joseph waited, surprised by how much her answer mattered. Finally, what kind of charity? Joseph, Children's Hospital Foundation. My mother is on the board. Victoria, I'd need to know more details. Time, dress code, whether I'll be expected to make small talk with billionaires. Joseph, 6 p.m. Black tie. And yes, probably some small talk. But I'll stay with you the whole time. Victoria, let me think about it. That's a big second date. Joseph, technically it would be our 3rd date. We're going to Pike Place next Friday, remember? Victoria, fair point. Okay. I'll go to your charity gala. But you're paying for my dress. Joseph, deal. Victoria, I'm kidding. I'll wear something I already own. Joseph, the offer stands if you change your mind. Victoria, noted. Good night, Joseph. Joseph, good night, Victoria. He set down his phone and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He had a date to Pike Place Market next Friday. He had a date to a charity gala the Saturday after that. He had a woman in his life who made him feel things he'd convinced himself he didn't need. Joseph Hardy, who'd built his fortune on logic and careful emotional distance, who'd spent 3 years avoiding anything that resembled real connection, found himself looking forward to next week with something that felt dangerously like happiness. And for the first time in a very long time, that didn't scare him nearly as much as it should have. Pike Place Market on a Friday evening in late June was exactly as chaotic as Victoria had promised. The summer food festival sprawled across the cobblestone streets, with vendors selling everything from artisanal cheeses to fusion tacos. Live music drifted from a stage near the waterfront. Tourists and locals crowded the walkways, and the air smelled like fresh flowers, coffee, and grilled seafood. Joseph met Victoria near the bronze pig statue at 5:30. She wore jeans and a loose white linen shirt, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail. She had a professional-looking camera hanging around her neck. "You're on time," she said, looking pleased. "You sound surprised. Rich people are usually late. They think their time is more valuable than everyone else's." That's a broad generalization. Based on extensive experience. Victoria adjusted her camera. "Come on. I want to check out the Mediterranean vendor first. They've been getting good reviews, and I'm thinking about adding some Greek-inspired options to my menu." They wove through the crowd. Victoria stopped at a booth selling spanakopita and grilled halloumi, talking to the vendor about suppliers and preparation techniques. Joseph stood back and watched her work, noting how she engaged people, how her questions were specific and informed. She bought samples and offered one to Joseph. The cheese was still warm, salty and squeaky against his teeth. "Good?" Victoria asked. "Very good." They moved to the next vendor, then the next. Victoria took photos, made notes on her phone, occasionally bought small portions to taste. Joseph carried her bag when it got too heavy, held her water bottle when she needed her hands free, and found himself more content running errands in a crowded market than he'd been at any corporate function in recent memory. "You're being very patient," Victoria observed as they waited in line at a Thai fusion booth. "I'm enjoying myself. Even though this is basically work for me? Especially because it's work for you. I like watching you think." Victoria smiled, but before she could respond, someone called her name. A man approached through the crowd. Tall, well-dressed, with the kind of polished appearance that suggested money and careful grooming. He was black, probably in his late 30s, with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Victoria Davis. I thought that was you." Victoria's posture changed subtly. Not quite tense, but more guarded. "Hello, Derek. It's been what, 2 years?" Derek's gaze shifted to Joseph, assessing. "I don't think we've met." "Derek Williams." Joseph shook his hand. "Joseph Hardy." Recognition flickered across Derek's face. "Hardy Industries Joseph Hardy? That's right." Derek's smile widened. "Impressive company you're keeping, Victoria. Moving up in the world." Victoria's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Derek owns Williams Events. We used to work together." "We were engaged, actually," Derek said, his tone casual. 3 years ago. Before Victoria decided she needed to find herself or whatever." The words landed like stones in water. Joseph felt Victoria go still beside him. "That's not what happened," Victoria said quietly. "No? My memory must be off." Derek's tone stayed light, but there was an edge underneath. "Either way, water under the bridge. I'm doing well. Just landed the Stevenson wedding. You know, the software Stevensons. 6-figure contract. Good for you. You still doing the small corporate events? Lunch platters and office parties?" Joseph felt his protective instincts activate. He stepped slightly closer to Victoria. "Victoria catered an executive board lunch last month. It was exceptional." Derek's eyes moved between them, calculation evident. "I'm sure it was. Victoria's always been talented. Just couldn't handle the pressure of scaling up. Some people are better with small operations." "Derek." Victoria's voice was calm but firm. "It was nice seeing you. We need to go." "Of course. Don't let me keep you." Derek pulled out a business card and offered it to Victoria. "If you ever want to talk about merging operations, give me a call. I could use someone with your skills. As an employee, obviously." Victoria didn't take the card. "I'm not interested. Think about it. The offer stands." Derek nodded to Joseph. "Nice meeting you. Good luck with the small events, Victoria." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Victoria stood motionless for a moment. Then she turned to Joseph. "I need to walk." They left the food festival, heading toward the waterfront. Victoria walked quickly, her camera bouncing against her chest. Joseph kept pace, not speaking, waiting for her to process whatever she needed to process. They reached a quieter section of the pier. Victoria stopped at the railing, looking out at Elliott Bay. A ferry crossed the water in the distance, and seagulls circled overhead. "Sorry," she said finally. "For what?" "For that. For Derek. For the awkwardness." "You don't need to apologize." Victoria gripped the railing. "We were engaged. 4 years ago, not 3. I was 30, he was 35. We met when I was doing private chef work for one of his events. He was charming, successful, said all the right things." Joseph waited, letting her tell it at her own pace. "My father had just died. I was a mess. Derek seemed stable, like he had everything figured out. He proposed after 6 months. I said yes because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Get married, settle down, build a life." Victoria's voice stayed level, but Joseph heard the old pain underneath. "Then I started planning the wedding and realized I was planning his wedding. His vision, his guest list, his ideas about what our life should look like. When I suggested doing something different, he'd smile and explain why his way was better. What happened? I called it off. 3 months before the wedding. He'd already put the deposit down on a venue, booked the caterer, sent save the dates. He was furious. Said I was immature, couldn't commit, didn't know what I wanted." Victoria turned to face Joseph. "He told me I'd never make it on my own. That I needed someone to take care of me because I didn't have the business sense to build anything real. Joseph felt anger rise in his chest, cold and sharp. He was wrong. Was he? I'm barely breaking even most months. I'm doing office lunches and small parties while he's landing six-figure weddings. Maybe he was right. Stop. The word came out harder than Joseph intended. Victoria looked at him, surprised. Sorry, he said. But no. He wasn't right. You built a business from nothing in 2 years. During a pandemic, no less. You have clients who keep rebooking you. You have skills he can't touch. The size of the contract doesn't measure success. Sustainability does. And you're sustaining. Victoria studied him. You sound very certain about that. I am certain. I've built a company. I know what it takes. You have what it takes. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Gratitude, maybe, or relief. Thank you. It's just the truth. They stood at the railing in comfortable silence. The sun had started its descent toward the Olympic Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I should have told you, Victoria said. About Derek. About the engagement. Before he showed up and made it weird. You don't owe me your history. Maybe not. But we've been on 2 dates. If this is going somewhere, you should know that I have baggage. Everyone has baggage. What's yours? Joseph considered how much to share. Then he thought about Victoria telling him about her father, about her 3 a.m. fears, about Derek. She'd been honest. He could do the same. I was engaged too. 3 years ago. Her name was Claire. We'd been dating for 2 years. She seemed perfect. Good family, good education, shared interests. I proposed because it made sense. A logical next step. What happened? She met someone else at a charity function. Fell in love, apparently. Broke off our engagement 6 weeks before the wedding. Joseph leaned against the railing. I should have been devastated. Instead, I felt relieved. Which told me everything I needed to know. Which was what? That I'd been building a partnership, not a relationship. That I'd chosen someone who fit into my life plan rather than someone I actually loved. Joseph looked at Victoria. After that, I decided love was inefficient. A liability. That the smart approach was to keep things casual, transactional. No messy emotions, no risk of getting hurt. And now? Now I'm standing on a pier with a woman who makes me rethink everything I convinced myself was true. Victoria's eyes widened slightly. That's quite an admission. You asked for the truth. I did. She turned back to the water. For the record, I'm scared. Of what? This. You. The way I feel when I'm around you. I like you, Joseph. More than I expected to like you. And that terrifies me because the last time I let myself feel this way, it ended with someone telling me I wasn't enough. Joseph moved closer, not touching her but near enough that she could feel his presence. You're more than enough. You barely know me. I know enough. And I want to know more. Victoria turned to face him. They stood inches apart. Joseph could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes, the way the sunset light caught her skin. I need to tell you something else, Victoria said. About the gala tomorrow. Okay. I've never been to anything like that. Black tie charity events with billionaires and society people. That's not my world. I'm going to be completely out of my element. You'll be with me. That's what I'm worried about. Joseph frowned. I don't understand. Victoria took a breath. Your mother is going to be there. Your business associates. People from your world who are going to look at me and wonder what you're doing with a caterer who can barely keep her business afloat. I don't care what they think. But I do. I care that they'll judge you for being with me. I care that I might embarrass you. I care that Derek was right when he said I'm out of my league. Derek is an insecure man who tried to control you and failed. His opinion is worth nothing. It's not just his opinion. It's reality. Look at us, Joseph. You're a billionaire CEO. I'm a small business owner who drives a 10-year-old Honda and lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. We're from different worlds. Joseph felt frustration building, not at Victoria but at the situation, at Derek for planting these doubts, at the wealth gap that created barriers neither of them had chosen. Money doesn't define worth, he said. That's easy to say when you have it. The words hung between them, sharp and honest. Joseph couldn't argue with that. He'd never struggled financially, never worried about making rent, never had to choose between investing in his business and paying for basic necessities. You're right, he said finally. I can't understand what that's like. But I can tell you that every successful person I respect started somewhere. Built something from nothing. Made sacrifices and took risks. You're doing that. Right now. And it's impressive as hell. Victoria's expression softened. You really believe that? I really do. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, I'm still scared about tomorrow. That's okay. I'm a little scared too. You? Why? Because I'm bringing someone I care about to meet my mother, who has very strong opinions about everything. Because I'm introducing you to my world, which can be shallow and judgmental and exhausting. Because I want you to see that world and still want to be part of my life. Victoria reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip firm. I want to be part of your life. Even though I'm a billionaire with baggage and an overbearing mother? Even though. Joseph squeezed her hand. Then we'll face tomorrow together. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, we leave. No explanations, no apologies. We just go. You'd leave your own mother's charity gala? For you? Yes. Victoria smiled, small but genuine. That's either very romantic or very reckless. Can it be both? I think it has to be. They stood holding hands as the sun continued its descent. The waterfront had grown quieter, the festival crowds dispersing. A cool breeze came off the water, carrying the smell of salt and seaweed. Joseph's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Then again. You should check that, Victoria said. He pulled out his phone reluctantly. 3 texts from Marcus Chen, his head of operations. Marcus, we have a problem with the Matsuda contract. Marcus, they're asking for revised terms. Need to discuss ASAP. Marcus, call me when you get this. Joseph felt the familiar pull of work, of problems that needed solving, of a world that required his constant attention. You need to go, Victoria said, reading his expression. I don't want to. But you need to. It's okay. I understand. Joseph looked at her, weighing responsibility against desire. The old Joseph would have left immediately, prioritized work without question. But standing here with Victoria, he found himself resenting the interruption in a way he'd never resented work before. Come with me, he said suddenly. What? To my office. It won't take long. An hour, maybe 2. We can grab late dinner after. Victoria hesitated. You want me to sit in your office while you work? I want to spend more time with you. Even if part of that time involves me being boring and dealing with contract revisions. That's possibly the least romantic invitation I've ever received. Is that a no? Victoria smiled. It's a yes. Let's go watch you be a billionaire CEO for a while. They walked back through the market to where Joseph had parked. The drive to Hardy Industries took 15 minutes through early evening traffic. Joseph pulled into the executive garage, noting how Victoria took in the sleek building, the security systems, the markers of wealth that he'd long since stopped noticing. They rode the elevator to the 42nd floor. Marcus was waiting in Joseph's office, pacing. Thank God, Marcus said when they entered. Then he noticed Victoria. Oh, sorry. I didn't know you had company. Marcus Chen, this is Victoria Davis. Victoria, Marcus is my head of operations. They shook hands. Marcus looked between them with barely concealed curiosity. What's the problem? Joseph asked, moving behind his desk. Matsuda wants to renegotiate the payment schedule. They're asking for net 60 terms instead of net 30. And they want approval rights on any third-party integrations. Joseph pulled up the contract on his computer. Victoria settled into one of the chairs near the window, pulling out her phone. For the next 90 minutes, Joseph immersed himself in contract negotiations. He conference called with the legal team, ran financial projections, debated terms with Marcus. Victoria stayed quiet, occasionally looking up from her phone but mostly giving him space to work. Finally, they reached a compromise. Modified payment terms, limited approval rights, additional support guarantees. Joseph sent the revised proposal to Matsuda's team and closed his laptop. Marcus left, still shooting curious glances at Victoria. Joseph rubbed his eyes. Sorry. That took longer than expected. It's almost 9, Victoria said, checking her watch. I know. Rain check on dinner? Victoria stood, crossing to his desk. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you always work like that? Like what? Like nothing else exists. Complete focus. Total immersion. Joseph considered the question. Yes. When there's a problem to solve, I solve it. Everything else waits. That's what I thought. Victoria's expression was unreadable. I should go. You probably have more work to do. Victoria. It's okay. Really. I knew what I was getting into. She picked up her bag. I'll see you tomorrow at the gala. Something felt wrong. Joseph stood, moving around the desk. Are you upset? No. Just tired. It's been a long day. Talk to me. Victoria met his eyes. When you're working, I disappear. Not physically, but in your awareness. I sat in that chair for 90 minutes and you didn't look at me once. Didn't acknowledge I was there. Just went into this mode where nothing else mattered. Joseph felt his stomach drop. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I know you didn't mean to. That's what worries me. Victoria's voice stayed gentle, but the words cut. Claire said you were building a partnership, not a relationship. I'm starting to understand what she meant. You're very good at compartmentalizing. Work is work. Everything else is everything else. And work always comes first. That's not fair. Isn't it? You brought me to your office and then forgot I existed. Joseph wanted to argue, but he couldn't. She was right. The moment Marcus had explained the problem, Victoria had ceased to exist in his awareness. He'd shifted into work mode, solving the problem with single-minded focus. I don't know how to be different, he said quietly. I know. That's the problem. Victoria shouldered her back. I should go. Let me drive you. I'll take an Uber. You probably have more work anyway. Victoria, please. She paused at the door. I'm not angry, Joseph. I'm just seeing clearly for the first time. You're brilliant at what you do. But relationships require presence. Not just physical presence, but actual attention. And I don't know if you know how to give that. I want to try. Do you? Or do you want to try? She gave him a sad smile. Think about that. I'll see you tomorrow. She left. Joseph stood in his empty office, surrounded by the markers of his success, and felt more alone than he had in years. His phone sat on the desk. He picked it up, pulled up Victoria's contact, started to type a message. He deleted it. Then started again. Deleted again. Finally, he set the phone down and stared out at the Seattle skyline, the city lights spreading below him like a circuit board, organized and logical and utterly devoid of warmth. For the first time since building his empire, Joseph Hardy wondered if the cost of his success might be higher than he'd ever calculated. Joseph didn't sleep that night. He sat in his home office until 3 in the morning, staring at financial reports without reading them. His mind kept replaying the look on Victoria's face when she'd said he'd forgotten she existed. The quiet disappointment in her voice. The way she'd walked out without anger, just resignation. At 7 on Saturday morning, July 6th, he gave up on sleep and went for a run along Lake Washington. The sun was already climbing, promising another warm summer day. Other runners passed him on the trail, and he wondered if any of them had ruined something good through sheer inability to be present. His phone rang as he rounded the halfway point. His mother. Joseph, darling. Just confirming you're still coming tonight. 6 sharp. And you're bringing someone? Yes, Mom. Wonderful. I'm dying to meet her. What did you say her name was? Victoria Davis. And she's a caterer. How interesting. His mother's tone suggested it was anything but interesting. Well, I'm sure she's lovely. See you tonight. Joseph ended the call and increased his pace, as if he could outrun the conversation. Back home, he showered and tried to work. His laptop sat open on the kitchen counter while he made coffee he didn't drink. He had quarterly reports to review, 3 acquisition proposals waiting for analysis, a product launch timeline that needed approval. He couldn't focus on any of it. Instead, he kept thinking about what Victoria had said. Work always comes first. You're very good at compartmentalizing. She was right. He'd built his life around that principle. Emotions were messy and inefficient. Work was clean, logical, solvable. You identified the problem, applied the solution, measured the results. No ambiguity, no uncertainty, no risk of being blindsided by feelings you couldn't control. It had served him well. He'd built a $9 billion company by the age of 37. He had wealth, success, respect. Everything he'd worked for. And he was completely alone. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria, still on for tonight? If you've changed your mind, I understand. Joseph stared at the message. She was giving him an out. A clean exit. They could end this now, before it got more complicated, before either of them got hurt worse than they already were. He typed, I'll pick you up at 5:30. Send me your address. The response came quickly, 2847, 15th Avenue East, apartment 3B. Joseph, see you then. He set down his phone and finally managed to focus on work for a few hours. By the time 5 o'clock arrived, he'd approved the product launch timeline and made notes on 2 of the acquisition proposals. Progress, if not full productivity. He dressed carefully. Black tuxedo, perfectly tailored. White shirt, black bow tie, cufflinks his grandfather had given him. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a man dressed for a performance. The drive to Victoria's apartment took 20 minutes. Her building was a modest 3-story structure in Capitol Hill, well-maintained but clearly older. He found street parking and climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. He knocked on 3B. Victoria opened the door, and Joseph forgot how to breathe. She wore a floor-length dress in deep burgundy, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt. Her hair was styled in soft curls that framed her face, and she'd done something with her makeup that made her eyes look enormous. She was absolutely stunning. "Hi," she said. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." She grabbed a small clutch from the table near the door. "Ready? Victoria, wait." She paused, turning back to face him. Joseph stepped into the apartment, noting the small but tidy space. A galley kitchen, a living area with a well-worn couch, plants on every available surface. It was warm and lived in and completely different from his sterile showpiece of a house. "I need to say something before we go," he said. "Okay. You were right. Last night. About everything. I did forget you were there. I do compartmentalize. I've spent years training myself to focus on one thing at a time, to give work my complete attention because that's how I built success." Joseph met her eyes. "But that's not an excuse. You deserved better. You deserve better." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if I can change. I've been this way for so long, I don't know if I remember how to be different. But I want to try. For you. If you're willing to be patient while I figure it out." "Joseph. I'm not finished. You said relationships require presence. You're right. And I haven't been present. Not really. Even when I'm with you, part of my mind is always somewhere else. Solving problems, planning strategies, calculating outcomes." He took a breath. "But when you left last night, I realized something. None of it matters if I'm alone. The company, the money, the success. It's all just noise if there's no one to share it with." Victoria looked at him for a long moment. "That's a lot of pressure to put on one person." "I know. And I'm not saying you have to fix me or complete me or whatever romantic comedy nonsense that implies. I'm just saying that you make me want to be more than what I've been. And that scares me almost as much as it excites me." "I'm scared too," Victoria said quietly. "I know. I almost texted you this morning to cancel. To say this was moving too fast, that we're too different, that it won't work." Joseph's chest tightened. "Why didn't you?" "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you either. About how you carry my bag at the market and hold doors and actually listen when I talk about food costs and supplier relationships. About how you looked at Derek like you wanted to punch him for saying I couldn't handle pressure." She smiled slightly. "And because you showed up at my apartment in a tuxedo, looking nervous, and admitted you don't know how to change but want to try. So where does that leave us? Honest with each other, I think. And willing to see where this goes." Victoria picked up her clutch again. "Now let's go to this gala before I lose my nerve completely." They drove across the lake to Bellevue, where the charity event was being held at the Maidenbauer Center. Joseph found himself hyper-aware of Victoria beside him, the way her dress pooled in the passenger seat, the subtle scent of her perfume. "Tell me about your mother," Victoria said as they approached the venue. "She's intense. Strong opinions, stronger will. She's been trying to marry me off since Claire and I split up. Should I be worried? She's going to ask you inappropriate questions and make judgments based on incomplete information. But she's also fiercely loyal to the people she accepts into her circle." "How do I get accepted into her circle?" Joseph glanced at her. "Be yourself. She respects authenticity. It's the one thing she values above social status." They pulled up to the valet stand. Joseph helped Victoria out of the car, offering his arm. She took it, and they walked into the venue together. The ballroom was exactly what Joseph had expected. Crystal chandeliers, round tables with elaborate centerpieces, a stage set up for speeches and presentations. People in expensive formal wear mingled with champagne glasses, their laughter carefully modulated to the appropriate volume. "This is a lot," Victoria murmured. "We can leave anytime you want. I'm okay. Just observing." Joseph's mother spotted them immediately. She glided across the room, her silver gown making her look like elegant armor. At 62, Patricia Hardy commanded attention without trying. "Joseph. There you are." She kissed his cheek, then turned to Victoria with appraising eyes. "And you must be Victoria. Mrs. Hardy. It's nice to meet you." "Patricia, please. Mrs. Hardy makes me sound ancient." She took Victoria's hand, holding it for a moment longer than a standard greeting. "That's a beautiful dress. Is that Tadashi Shoji?" Victoria blinked, clearly surprised. "Yes. How did you know?" "I know fashion. And I know quality when I see it." Patricia smiled, and Joseph recognized it as genuine rather than her social smile. "Come. Let me introduce you to some people before we sit for dinner." What followed was a whirlwind of introductions. Patricia guided them through the room, presenting Victoria to board members and major donors with the same courtesy she'd show anyone of importance. Joseph watched his mother work, recognizing her strategy. She was testing Victoria, seeing how she handled herself in unfamiliar territory. Victoria passed every test. She was polite without being obsequious, interested without being sycophantic. When a tech CEO asked what she did, she explained her catering business with confidence. When his wife asked about her specialty, Victoria described her approach to locally sourced ingredients with genuine passion. "She's good," Patricia murmured to Joseph when Victoria was engaged in conversation with the hospital foundation director. "I know. Where did you find her?" "She catered a corporate lunch. We talked. I asked her to dinner." Patricia studied him. "You like her. Actually like her, not just find her suitable." "Duh. Good. It's about time you felt something real." She patted his arm. "Don't mess this up." Dinner was announced. Joseph found their table, relieved to see it was relatively small. Just 6 people: Joseph, Victoria, Patricia, a surgeon from the children's hospital, and a couple who donated significantly to the foundation. The meal progressed pleasantly enough. Salad, a choice of salmon or beef, elaborate desserts. Victoria ate with good appetite, not picking at her food the way Claire used to at these events. Halfway through the main course, the couple across the table engaged Victoria in conversation. "So you're a caterer," the woman said. Her name was Linda something, and her tone suggested this was slightly scandalous. "That must be interesting work." "It is. I love what I do." "And how exactly did you and Joseph meet?" Linda's husband asked. "His name was Robert, and he'd made his money in real estate development. I catered a lunch at his company. We started talking." "How enterprising," Linda said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I suppose catering for the right clients can open all sorts of doors." Victoria's expression didn't change, but Joseph felt her stiffen slightly beside him. "Victoria's food is exceptional," Patricia interjected smoothly. "I've been thinking of hiring her for my book club luncheon next month." "Oh, how nice," Linda said. "Supporting small businesses. Very charitable of you." The condescension was barely veiled. Joseph felt anger rise in his chest, but before he could say anything, Victoria spoke. "I appreciate the characterization, but I should clarify something. I didn't pursue Joseph for business opportunities. I actually told him I don't date clients. He asked me out, I said maybe, and eventually I decided yes because he seemed interesting. The fact that he's wealthy is honestly more of a complication than a benefit." Linda blinked. "I didn't mean to imply." "Of course you did. And that's fine. People make assumptions based on appearances. But I own my business outright. No investors, no debt. I built it from nothing in 2 years during a pandemic. I work 60-hour weeks and do my own books and make every single meal myself. So yes, I'm a small business. But I'm also successful on my own terms. I don't need anyone to open doors for me." The table went quiet. Then the surgeon laughed. "Well said. I like you, Victoria. You've got spine." He raised his wine glass. "To small business owners who work their asses off. The economy runs on you, not on people like us who just move money around." The tension broke. Conversation resumed. But Joseph noticed his mother watching Victoria with undisguised approval. After dinner, there were speeches. The hospital director talked about the children they'd helped. A young patient gave a moving testimonial. Donors were recognized. Joseph had been to 100 events like this. They all blurred together. But this time, he was hyper-aware of Victoria beside him. The way she leaned forward during the patient's speech clearly moved. The way she applauded genuinely rather than performing social obligation. The way she belonged here not because of money or status, but because she cared. When the speeches ended, people moved to the bar area for cocktails and networking. Joseph started to stand, but Victoria touched his arm. "Can we step outside for a minute?" They found a balcony overlooking the lake. The July evening had cooled, and a breeze came off the water. Victoria leaned against the railing, her dress moving slightly in the wind. "You okay?" Joseph asked. "Yeah. Just needed air." That was intense. Linda was out of line. She was protecting her world. "I get it." Victoria turned to face him. "Do you know what the worst part was? Part of me wondered if she was right. If I am here because of who you are rather than who I am. That's ridiculous. You're here because I want you here. But would you have noticed me if I wasn't good at what I do? If I was just someone serving food instead of someone who challenged you and made you curious?" Joseph considered the question honestly. "I don't know. Maybe not. But that doesn't diminish what this is. I notice lots of competent people. I don't ask them to dinner. I don't think about them constantly. I don't stand on balconies wondering how to be worthy of them." Victoria's eyes widened. "Worthy of me? Joseph, you're a billionaire. And you're someone who built something real from nothing. Who takes care of people through food. Who stands up to condescending socialites without losing your composure. Who makes me want to be present instead of always planning the next move. He moved closer. Money doesn't make me worthy of you. If anything, it's a barrier we have to work around. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. For what? For your world. For people like Linda who will always see me as the caterer who got lucky. For being the one who doesn't fit in at events like this. You fit in better than most of them. You have something real to offer. They just have checkbooks and opinions. Victoria smiled, but it was sad. You say that now. But eventually, you'll get tired of defending me. Of explaining me. Of dealing with the questions about why someone like you is with someone like me. Joseph felt fear grip his chest. Real fear, not the comfortable anxiety of a business negotiation gone wrong. Are you ending this? I don't know. I don't know if I'm brave enough to keep going. Victoria. I need time to think. This is all happening so fast. A month ago we didn't know each other. Now I'm at charity galas meeting your mother and fielding questions about my intentions. It's a lot. Joseph wanted to argue. To convince her. To solve this problem the way he solved every other problem. But he recognized that pushing would only prove her point about him. Okay, he said quietly. Take the time you need. You're not going to fight me on this? You just told me you need space to think. Fighting you would be putting my needs above yours. I'm trying not to do that anymore. Victoria looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and kissed his cheek. Thank you for bringing me tonight. For introducing me to your mother. For defending me to Linda even though you didn't have to. I wanted to. I know. She stepped back. I should go. Can you call me a car? Let me drive you. I'd rather take an Uber. I need to be alone right now. Joseph pulled out his phone and ordered her a car. They waited in silence until it arrived. He walked her down to the entrance, hyper-aware that this might be the last time he saw her. At the car, Victoria paused. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just saying I need a minute. I understand. Do you? No. But I'm trying to. She almost smiled. Then she got in the car and disappeared into the night. Joseph stood in the entrance long after the car had gone, feeling the weight of everything he'd said and everything he hadn't. He went back inside. His mother found him at the bar. Where's Victoria? She left. Patricia studied his face. What did you do? Why do you assume I did something? Because you're my son. And you're brilliant at business and terrible at relationships. She ordered a martini. Tell me what happened. Joseph told her. Not everything, but enough. His mother listened without interrupting. She's right to be scared, Patricia said finally. That's not helpful, Mom. I'm not trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be honest. Your world is intimidating. Linda's comments were mild compared to what some people will say. And Victoria doesn't have the armor that comes from growing up in wealth. Every slight will hurt more. Every judgment will cut deeper. So you think I should let her go? I think you should decide if you're willing to work for this. Because it will be work, Joseph. Constant work. Proving to her that she matters more than appearances. Showing up when she needs you instead of when it's convenient. Being present instead of just physically there. Patricia sipped her martini. Can you do that? I don't know. Then you have your answer. Joseph looked at his mother. Did you like her? Very much. She's real. That's rare in our circles. She thinks she doesn't belong. She doesn't. None of us really do. We just pretend better. Patricia set down her glass. The question isn't whether she belongs. It's whether you're willing to meet her where she is instead of expecting her to rise to where you are. Joseph thought about that for the rest of the night. About what it meant to meet someone where they were. About whether he was capable of the kind of presence and attention that Victoria deserved. He drove home at midnight, his tuxedo feeling like a costume, his house feeling emptier than ever. He sat in his living room and pulled out his phone. Opened his messages with Victoria. Started to type a dozen different things. Finally, he wrote, I'm willing to work for this. For us. Whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here. He sent it before he could second-guess himself. The response didn't come that night. Or the next morning. Or the next day. Joseph went to work on Monday and tried to focus. He had meetings, decisions to make, a company that required his attention. But for the first time in his career, work felt like the distraction rather than the priority. And he had no idea if that realization had come too late. Victoria didn't text back for 5 days. Joseph knew because he checked his phone approximately every 10 minutes, a habit that Marcus noticed during their Tuesday morning meeting. You've looked at your phone 16 times in the last hour, Marcus observed. Everything okay? Fine, Joseph lied. He wasn't fine. He was distracted, unfocused, operating at about 60% capacity. His team noticed. His assistant noticed. He noticed. But he couldn't seem to stop himself from waiting for a message that might never come. On Wednesday afternoon, he drove past Victoria's apartment building. He didn't stop, didn't park, just drove by like a stalker. He felt pathetic and did it again on Thursday. Friday morning, his mother called. "Have you heard from Victoria?" "No." "Are you going to do anything about that?" She asked for space. "I'm giving her space." Patricia made a disapproving sound. "Space is fine. Disappearing is not. Call her." "Mom." "Call her, Joseph. Or go see her. But don't just wait passively for her to decide your fate. Show her you're willing to fight for this." His mother hung up before he could argue. Joseph sat at his desk, staring at his phone. Then he pulled up Victoria's business website and found her contact form. Under Services, there was an option for private events. He filled it out, requesting a quote for a private dinner. Location, his house. Date, Saturday, July 13th, time, 7 p.m. Number of guests, 2. He submitted the form and waited. 3 hours later, his phone rang. "Victoria. This is a business inquiry," she asked without preamble. "Yes. Joseph. You said you needed time. I'm giving you time. But I also need to eat, and I'd like to hire the best caterer in Seattle to cook dinner. If you're available." Silence on the other end. Then, "This is ridiculous." "Is that a no?" More silence. "What kind of dinner are you thinking?" "Whatever you want to make." "Surprise me." "That's a lot of trust to put in someone you barely know." "I know you well enough." Victoria sighed, but he heard something that might have been amusement underneath. "I charge $200 an hour, plus the cost of ingredients. Minimum 4 hours. Done. I'm not sleeping with you. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to cook. This is the strangest business transaction I've ever had. Is that a yes?" Another pause. "Saturday at 7. Send me your address and any dietary restrictions." "No restrictions." "And Victoria?" "Yes. Thank you." She hung up without responding. Joseph sent her his address and spent the next day in a state of anticipation that was completely inappropriate for what was technically a business arrangement. Saturday arrived with perfect summer weather. Joseph spent the morning cleaning his house, which was absurd because he had a cleaning service. Then he spent the afternoon rearranging furniture, which was even more absurd because the furniture was fine where it was. At 6:30, he changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a casual button-down. Then he changed again because that looked like he was trying too hard. The doorbell rang at precisely 7 p.m. Joseph opened the door to find Victoria standing there with 2 large insulated bags and a professional rolling case. She wore black pants and her white chef's coat, her hair pulled back in the same low bun from the first day they'd met. "Hi," she said. Come. She wheeled her equipment inside, looking around at the house with an appraising expression. Joseph tried to see it through her eyes. The soaring ceilings, the wall of windows overlooking the lake, the open-concept kitchen he'd never used. "Nice place," Victoria said neutrally. "It's too big." "I wasn't going to say that." "But you were thinking it." She almost smiled. "Where's your kitchen?" Joseph led her to the marble and stainless steel showcase that his designer had insisted was essential. Victoria set her bags on the island and began unpacking. "I need you to stay out of the kitchen while I work," she said, not looking at him. "This is my house. And this is my kitchen for the next 4 hours. House rules." Joseph recognized the boundary she was setting. Professional distance. Safe territory. "Fair enough. I'll be in the living room if you need anything." He retreated to the couch with his laptop, pretending to work while actually watching Victoria move around his kitchen. She worked with the same focused efficiency he'd observed at Pike Place Market, chopping vegetables with precise knife work, heating pans, arranging ingredients in careful order. The smell started about 20 minutes in. Garlic, herbs, something rich and savory that made his stomach growl. Joseph gave up pretending to work and just watched. Victoria had put on music, something jazz that he didn't recognize. She moved to the rhythm while she cooked, completely absorbed in her task. This was what presence looked like, Joseph realized. Complete engagement with the moment. No divided attention, no mental multitasking. Just Victoria and the food and the act of creation. He wanted to learn how to do that. To be that focused on something that wasn't work or strategy or the next problem to solve. At 8:30, Victoria appeared in the living room doorway. "Dinner's ready. Dining room table okay?" Joseph followed her to the dining room, where she'd set 2 places across from each other. Steam rose from the plates, and the presentation was restaurant quality. "What am I looking at?" he asked. pan-seared duck breast with cherry gastrique, roasted fingerling potatoes with rosemary, and sautéed broccolini with lemon and garlic. Victoria removed her chef's coat, revealing a simple black t-shirt underneath. The duck is medium rare. If you prefer it more cooked, I can fix that. I'm sure it's perfect. They sat. Joseph cut into the duck, and it was indeed perfect. Crispy skin, tender meat, the sauce providing a sweet tart contrast. The potatoes were crispy outside and fluffy inside. The broccolini had exactly the right amount of bite. This is incredible, Joseph said. Thank you. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Victoria set down her fork. I've been thinking about what you said. About being willing to work for this. Joseph's heart rate increased. Okay. I don't know if I believe you. Not because I think you're lying, but because I don't know if you understand what that means. Work for you is something you're good at. Work for me is something I have to fight for every day. We're not talking about the same thing. You're right. I don't understand. But I want to. Victoria studied him. Why? Why does this matter to you? You could have any woman you want. Someone who already fits into your world. Someone who knows the rules and won't embarrass you at charity galas. Why choose me? Joseph considered the question carefully. Because everyone else feels like a performance. I know what to say, how to act, what version of myself to present. It's exhausting. But with you, I don't know the script. I don't have the answers prepared. You make me uncomfortable in the best possible way. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It is, though. Discomfort means growth. You make me want to grow. Victoria picked up her wine glass, swirling the contents without drinking. I'm not a project, Joseph. I'm not here to fix you or make you a better person. That's not my job. I know. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking if you're willing to let me figure it out while we see where this goes. And if you can't figure it out? If you keep compartmentalizing and forgetting I exist every time work calls? Then you tell me. And I'll work on it. Or you'll decide it's not worth it and leave. But at least we'll have tried. Victoria set down her glass. I talked to my mother this week. Told her about you. About the gala, about Linda, about my fears. What did she say? She said I was borrowing trouble. That I was so scared of getting hurt again that I was creating problems before they existed. Victoria's voice was quiet. She also said that Derek made me believe I wasn't enough. And that maybe I needed to stop believing him. Joseph felt hope flicker in his chest. Your mother sounds wise. She is. Annoyingly so. Victoria met his eyes. I'm still scared. I know. But I think I'm more scared of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. So what are you saying? I'm saying let's try. For real this time. No more asking for space when things get hard. No more business dinner pretenses. Just us, figuring this out as we go. Joseph felt something settle in his chest, solid and sure. I'd like that. Ground rules, though. When you go into work mode and forget I exist, I'm going to call you on it. Every time. And you don't get to be defensive about it. Agreed. And if we're doing this, we're doing it at a normal pace. No rushing into declarations or moving in together or any of that. We take our time. Okay. And you have to actually use this kitchen. It's a crime to have a kitchen this nice and never cook in it. Joseph smiled. I don't know how to cook. Then I'll teach you. That can be your homework. Learn to make one meal that doesn't come from a restaurant or a delivery service. That seems like a reasonable price of admission. Victoria stood, collecting their plates. I'm going to plate dessert. Then we're going to sit on that expensive couch of yours and you're going to tell me about your week. And you're going to listen when I tell you about mine. Deal? Deal. She returned with 2 plates of what looked like chocolate mousse with fresh raspberries. They settled on the couch, the lake visible through the windows as the sun set over the Olympics. Joseph told her about the Matsuda contract finally being signed, about his mother's continued attempts at matchmaking despite knowing about Victoria, about the quarterly board meeting scheduled for next week. Victoria told him about booking 3 new corporate events, about her brother calling to check on her, about the farmer's market vendor who'd given her a discount on heirloom tomatoes because he liked her smile. They talked until the dessert plate sat empty on the coffee table, until the sun had fully set and the lights from across the lake twinkled in the darkness. I should clean up, Victoria said, checking her watch. It's almost 11. Leave it. I'll take care of it tomorrow. That's not very professional of me. You're off the clock. You stopped being my caterer about 3 hours ago. Victoria looked at him, and he saw her decide something. Yeah, I guess I did. Can I ask you something? Sure. When did you decide? To give this another chance? Victoria thought about it. When you filled out my business contact form instead of just texting me. You could have pushed, could have shown up at my apartment, could have done the grand romantic gesture thing. Instead, you respected my boundary and found a way to see me that gave me control. That mattered. Joseph reached for her hand. She let him take it. I'm glad. Me too. She squeezed his fingers. I should go, though. I have an early event tomorrow. Let me drive you. I have my car here. Then let me walk you to it. They went downstairs to the garage. Victoria's 10-year-old Honda sat next to his Tesla like a study in contrasts. At her car, Victoria turned to face him. Thank you for dinner. For hiring me. For giving me space and then finding a way back in. Thank you for saying yes. For taking a chance on someone who doesn't know what he's doing. Nobody knows what they're doing, Joseph. Some people are just better at pretending. She kissed him then, soft and brief. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving Joseph standing in his garage feeling more hopeful than he'd felt in days. He went back upstairs and actually cleaned the kitchen, loading the dishwasher and wiping down the counters. It felt good, doing something practical with his hands. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria, made it home safe. Thanks again for tonight. Joseph replied, thank you for taking a chance. Victoria, we'll see if you regret saying that. I'm a lot of work. Joseph, so am I. We'll figure it out. Victoria, yeah. We will. Good night, Joseph. Joseph, good night, Victoria. He stood in his too-big kitchen, looking at the view he'd stopped seeing years ago, and allowed himself to feel something he'd avoided for a long time. Not certainty, not confidence, not the comfortable assurance that he could solve any problem through logic and strategy. Just hope. Simple, complicated, terrifying hope that maybe this time, with this woman, he could learn to be present instead of perfect. And for Joseph Hardy, who'd built an empire on being in control, that uncertainty felt surprisingly like coming home. Do not forget to like and subscribe.